So there, everybody. I'm going to be, I guess, doing something I never really thought I'd be doing, which is a kind of unique situation. And that is defending Grand Theft Auto 6. Kind of generally defending the Grand Theft Auto series as a whole, but more specifically Grand Theft Auto 6 because of a lot of the stuff popping up already about the game after one trailer, and everybody's got these particular stances on it now and saying things that are, one, wildly inaccurate, or two, make very little sense. And yeah, I'm going to be the guy defending Grand Theft Auto. Never thought I'd see myself doing that, but hey, things happen and life throws you curveballs. But this is one of those times where it's a curveball because I feel the need to talk about it, not necessarily that I have to. So essentially, I am putting myself in the position of defending it, even though it's not required of me, but it's because of me looking at the situation and like, this don't sit well with me, not in the least. So that all said, yeah, let's just get right into it because I'd rather get through these as quickly as possible. So first thing is people of particular caliber of notoriety saying that they won't play Grand Theft Auto 6 because you can shoot police officers. I mean, I guess that's a matter of your personal perspective there. Personal opinions aside, I mean, you don't want to play GTA 6. Cool, I really don't care that you don't want to. But the reasoning doesn't make logical sense because it's a fictional game. It's a fictional story. It's not actually affecting anybody. It's not hurting anything. And while there are arguments to be made about the effects video games can have on people, usually video games will have negative effects on people that already have issues that need help to be taken care of. And yes, if we're going to say that, then yes, video games can help exacerbate something that was already there, but video games don't cause those issues. Correlation is not causation. But even that's still an iffy thing because there are people with multiple different issues mentally and psychologically that don't actually get affected by video games in the same way. It all comes down to a person by person basis. So it's really a tough argument to make on that. But that said, Andrew Tate and his brother, whatever podcast they're running, and I only heard this through the grapevine, obviously, came out and said they will not play Grand Theft Auto 6 because you can shoot police officers. Now, I mean, if we review history just briefly within the last year or so, doesn't Andrew Tate kind of live the lifestyle of a GTA character? Is it because it hits too close to home? Because, I mean, from that perspective, it makes more sense to me. But just on the premise of you can shoot a police officer, so you can also shoot civilians walking down the street. You can shoot sex workers. You can shoot cars. You can shoot objects. You can ride in a tank. You can get in a plane and crash it. You can drive over people. You can jump on a boat and blow it up. I mean, that premise alone doesn't make sense. And plus, GTA isn't the first series ever to allow you to shoot and kill police officers. Not the first, and definitely won't be the last. So, I mean, on premise of that alone, it doesn't make sense. That's why it's weird. And it's not like the police officers in the game are defenseless. They can fight back. Like, they can fight back and very likely will. And on top of that, they'll gang up on you. So I'm like, it's like one of the weird takes that you get. And I'm like, sounds a little disingenuous to me. But then again, Andrew Tate, from what I remember, haven't really listened to a whole lot of the things he's been a part of, but some stuff has graced my eyes and ears. But he's at times said he doesn't think that people should be playing video games. Now, from that general standpoint, I can also respect that he would have that opinion, but it's just disingenuous to place it all solely on one reason. On the one reason of you can shoot police officers. It doesn't make any damn sense. And he acts like he's a complete law-abiding citizen. He's not. He's most definitely not. Then we move over to Elon Musk and Ian Miles Chong. Hopefully I said that right. Both of them, in a Twitter thread, talk about not wanting to play GTA because of being able to shoot police officers, or not being able to get through one because one of the missions, I think it was GTA 5, one of the first missions of the game, or the first mission of the game requires you to shoot a police officer. Like, you do realize you're playing the life of a criminal, right? Right. Like, that's the whole purpose of it. You're playing the life of a criminal in Grand Theft Auto. It's just weird to come at it from that standpoint. Like, but then, I mean, again, they're treating it like doing it in game has real world consequences, where it doesn't, with the exception of very specific, specialized circumstances, which you can't use that extreme to qualify for everyone. You just can't. And it kind of like gives me, like, when I look at people doing that, I get the Pat Robertson vibes of him saying that doing something in a video game is equivalent to doing it in real life. And I remember I had a whole flip out about that. Because then at that point, you could also say anything that you imagine becomes real because you imagined it. Because even if it didn't actually happen, you still pictured it, you still imagined it, which means you have committed it. And if that's the case, there is no person on the face of this planet that is saved. But that's a whole different subject. So, again, it just sounds so disingenuous to me. Like, you've got these platforms, you find yourselves in positions to just assume context automatically. And that's the big problem. You find yourselves in positions automatically assuming context. Everyone does it, but when you place such a heavy emphasis on certain things, you are giving a misrepresentation of that thing. So it's a very thin line to walk. Now, just saying I'm not interested in playing any Grand Theft Auto games, I don't like how they operate, how you play them, understood. But off the premise of this one specific item, that just, it's a little weird. Especially when, if you follow anything, their histories of posting things online, you will see that they have said and even done some things that will make you think, your stance here is very weak. Specifically, Elon Musk with trying to chip every fucking one. Like, you want to chip people, which you want to put microchips in people's brains to control their brain activity, which one could argue is an attempt at removing someone's free will. I think that's a lot more villainous than shooting a police officer. Especially if the context is that that police officer is corrupt, which a lot of the police officers in GTA throughout the series are corrupt. they are a representation of corrupt police officers. Not every police officer is doing their job to be a good guy. Now, most probably went into the profession wanting to be a good guy. Not everybody in the profession is a good guy. Police are people. Like everyone else. They're not immune to corruption. They're not immune to committing crimes. They're not immune to being bad. They have a higher duty of responsibility, but they're not immune to being human. Like, unless you want to say that anybody wanting to shoot Officer Tenpenny in San Andreas is a bad person. I'm sorry, Officer Tenpenny was... He was crap. Like, there's no two ways about it. But he was meant to be that way. And the fact that you wanted to hurt him meant that the character's portrayal was a good portrayal. Again, context matters. You can't just say, oh, well, because you had to shoot a police officer. Yeah, but what's the context of the situation? You can have context of a situation where the officer is doing something that could cause harm to somebody that is unjust and wrong word, but is unjust, and someone does something to the officer to protect that person. Not saying that that's going to be the situation in GTA. Obviously, it won't be. Or more than likely won't be. It just depends on the story threads. But in real life, police officers do make fatal mistakes when it comes to other people's lives. So I can understand where a game that gives you the ability to shoot an officer would also provide catharsis for people that have been in that situation where they've lost a loved one to a mistake a police officer's made. A fatal mistake. Again, doesn't mean that that person's bad. Could mean that they want to take out their frustrations on the game. They're not real people. So, again, thinking of the context. It's just one of those things where you can apply multitudes of different contexts to the situation, and not all of them mean that the person that's doing it is nefarious. Just something to think about. Now, the next thing, not as bad in any way, shape, or form, but it's that there was a article saying that, I think they're calling her Lucia for Grand Theft Auto 6, is the first female protagonist. One, I think that was a mistake to say that. It was probably meant to say she's the first female protagonist for Grand Theft Auto, but that would be woefully incorrect. That would be woefully incorrect for the reason that you have female lead characters in the first two Grand Theft Auto games and the expansions, the 1960 London 1969 and 1961. They have female characters that you can play as for those games. More specifically on the PC. I don't think that they were on the home console ports. I do believe like the thing was Game Boy Color. Game Boy Color had a port of the original GTA, and that did have the female characters in it. But to say that she's the first female lead, especially for this series, horribly wrong. Horribly wrong. Again, that's not the worst thing, because that's just somebody that didn't do proper research. Because it took me all of 2 minutes after looking at that and saying, oh, hold on. Like, I was like, in my mind, I was like, hold on, that doesn't sound right. Because I remember GTA having female characters in it. Or female leads in it. Now, the fact that you have a Bonnie and Clyde type story going on with the two lead characters is pretty awesome in my mind. But That's not so horrible of a thing, to be honest. It's just either they forgot information or didn't look it up. One of the two. One of the two. So I mean, I'm not gonna harp on that one too much. It's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, that you could have just done a little bit of research and found out, like, oh, this was wrong. Now the next thing is that people have an issue with the couple being interracial, and I'm wondering why. I'm really wondering why, because in GTA 3 and in San Andreas, you have, this is in Claude and I think it's Mariella or something like that. There are too many damn characters in GTA that have prominence, so forgive me if I forgot their names. But you have a white dude who is betrayed by his girlfriend to work for the cartel. And she became his girlfriend in as far as storyline goes, in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Only for her to betray him in Grand Theft Auto 3. They were an interracial couple. The one thing I would say to people, everybody's talking about inclusivity and all that type of stuff. For as much flack as the series has gotten, Grand Theft Auto has been one of the most diverse video game franchises on this planet. The worlds are always filled with a multitude of different types of people. Everyone's potentially set up to be either good or bad in the story. It's just one of those things that's like, this is one of the issues that people had? Like, really? Because you have a Latina with a white dude, which was a situation that already occurred in the franchise? Like, for real? That's what y'all want to harp on? Like, that's going to be the hill you die on. So, y'all can't just, like, go a few entries back in the series and look at, hey, yo, one of the major games in the series has an interracial couple in it. And if we're being real, in GTA San Andreas, CJ deals with a multitude of different women. They're not all black women. Again, it doesn't make sense when you look at the series. Like, why? Why is this the hill you want to die on? Like, why do you want to take up the fight at this particular point? You want to run headlong into battle over this. For one, it's not like there aren't interracial couples in the world. They're damn near everywhere at this point. In the U.S. Damn near everywhere in the U.S. at this point. Why are we making a huge deal out of this? Like, I don't get that. Like, I saw several posts that was their big issue. I'm like, really? Y'all have nothing better to do with yourselves than worry about the fact that the couple in the game is interracial? Do we want to just wipe the existence of that away? Or is it because the dude is a white dude? Is that the problem? Because if she was with a black guy or an Asian guy, it probably wouldn't have been an issue. Just think about it. Context-wise, I'm pretty sure that's the reason. That's the reason. Because if she was also a white woman, instead, people would be mad that, oh, well, why are there two white people that are lead characters for Grand Theft Auto 6? I can almost guarantee that would have been one of the things that was said. Again, I don't personally care because it's a fictional world. and it only really matters if the characters are interesting. But people are taking their personal worldview and applying it to this particular video game. I don't know, maybe that's why people don't enjoy video games the way I thought that most people would, is because they're trying to apply their personal or political view to a video game, a fictional world that doesn't actually affect your life. Maybe that's why so many people are miserable when it comes down to playing video games now, especially because of all the stuff in the last 10 years that has happened. And I'm just like, do y'all not like live life outside of a video game? Do you not? Like, really, do you not live your life outside of a video game? Because if you don't, that makes no sense to me. That makes no sense to me. None whatsoever. But then again, I mean, even though I grew up with video games, I know how to disengage from them. Might be my favorite pastime, but I know how to disengage from it when I need to. So I'm just like, I don't know. And people's thought processes always confuse me. Like, we can't play GTA because you shoot police officers in it. So I guess then that means that we can't play Super Mario Brothers because of animal cruelty, and you're jumping on turtles and kicking their shells across the ground, and taking drugs to do different things to get supernatural powers. You could make that argument about Super Mario. Well, we can't play Sonic the Hedgehog because of property destruction. You're taking a rich, balding, fat white dude's stuff and destroying it, breaking it, and he has a green energy source. He's not polluting the air whatsoever with what he uses until he gets to a certain point. Thanks, Sonic CD, for giving us that context. You could make these arguments. You can't play Jet Set Radio because of tagging different locations with graffiti, or property damage because you're jumping and grinding on different things with rails with your skates, and total destruction of property, honestly. And gang wars. There are actually gang wars in Jet Set Radio. Can't play Mortal Kombat because you're actually beating people up and killing them. And some of those people happen to be special forces officers, police, military. And on top of that, you're beating women in fights. You're beating up women with men in fights. So you can't do that. Oh, Street Fighter. You can't play Street Fighter now because Chun-Li's a woman and also an international police officer. So that's a double wrong. Right? I mean, when Ryu gives her the Shoryuken to the chin, that's illegal. We can't play this game because of that particular situation in those instances, right? Can't play Streets of Rage at all, especially Streets of Rage 4 more recently, because you fight police officers in Streets of Rage 4. And you beat up women, and you beat up a large minority group. Because there are hardly any white people that you fight in Streets of Rage, which is ironic. Y'all don't get that. Like, I have to negatively criticize games that I love to defend Grand Theft Auto. That's a wild concept to me. If we're going to apply realistic logic to video games, we should not play video games whatsoever. No one should be allowed to enjoy a video game. On top of that, no one should be allowed to enjoy music. No one should be allowed to enjoy movies, television shows, books. Think about when you implement these concepts, what it also affects going down the line. If you've read any violent story, watched any violent television show, watched any violent movie, listened to any particularly violent music or broadcast, you've contributed to the problem. That's why I don't like these mindsets that kind of just lump everything together, because you lack all of the nuance that fits in between. Again, a fictional world is a fictional world. If you're not interested in partaking in it, that is 100% completely okay and up to you. But don't spread your bullcrap context that messes with other people, because it doesn't make sense. And let's not get mad because the game has an interracial couple, which is a thing that happens, and people complain about wanting diversity in video games. And even though Grand Theft Auto has some of the worst representations of human beings on the planet, it still stays diverse. It's one of the most diverse game franchises on the planet, if we're talking specifically about diversity. You may not like it, but again, you don't have to like everything to respect what it actually does. Just like I don't have to like the opinions of the people I'm talking about, but I can respect how they got to where they are. And I know I did a little bit of accidental backtracking there. I didn't mean to do it, but I realized I didn't make a couple of points I meant to make. So I fell backwards a little bit. Point being, people enjoy the games that you want to enjoy, play the games that you want to play. Grand Theft Auto is always going to be steeped in controversy for one reason or another. They're going to do something that offends somebody. It's how the games are. Hell, that's how Saints Row started out as well. And I think the biggest problem with Saints Row is that it got to the point where they tried to do everything to not offend people, and it didn't work. Like, it didn't work at all. Because you can't have a story with a bunch of different types of people where nobody gets offended. It just doesn't work itself out. It's not going to happen. Because not everybody's going to be holding hands together singing Kumbaya and Happy Happy Joy Joy. We just are not built that way. There are going to be differences that cause arguments and fights. The thing is that people have to find a way to come together through those arguments and fights, through those differences, and figure out how to work with each other. That's the problem that most people are having. That's the conversation that most don't want to have. And that's what needs to be done. But let me actually wrap this up. Thank you for listening. I know I was very long-winded and I went on a little bit of a tirade there. I do apologize for that. Sometimes it happens. But if there's anything that you'd like to add, comment, say, please do. Thank you once again for listening, and keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out, everybody. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy, and I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in. If you would be interested in supporting my efforts in content creation, please head on over to Amazon and look up The Game Idea Guy Presents Gaming Word Search, and you will find both Volume 1 and Volume 2 up for sale. Thank you very much once again, and I hope to be able to create more content for you in the future. Peace out.